Hello everyone, and welcome to another pre-match from the back patio. It's been a little while. Daily Muppet. I wanted to speak about some of the news that has come out in the last 24 hours, as well as talk about the early team news, what's true out there, and what we should be expecting from the Everton game today, and why, in some ways, I think it might be a much more important of a game than the Manchester City game in a lot of ways, and in moving things forward, what we really need to see. Got my Manchester United coffee mug here ready. But yeah, so first and foremost, there was a story that I want to address that was about how some drama. It came from the Sun, so it's not to be surprised. Some drama in the dressing room because Erik ten Hag let Maguire take a week off to clear his head, and I think you can imagine that that's probably a bit, well, it's probably not true. It's probably not true, or you can imagine where it comes from. Who would have a problem with Harry Maguire taking that time off? He's not in a starting position right now. He's not taking anyone's spot. Nobody is, competing with him to the point where why is he playing when he gets to take a week off and things like that? Nobody's in that kind of position where you'd imagine that they could be or would be upset about this. So the likelihood of that being true is not, of there being some issue with it. The likelihood is, it's again some fringe thing, some fringe player, some fringe something who's leaking, or that they just entirely made it up in this regard because it is the Sun, or it was a rumor. Some staff said, oh yeah, some people are upset about Harry Maguire taking a week off, and somebody runs with it, or the way that these stories kind of go. I don't think it really matters. Ten Hag has control of his locker room. He's picking the team based on how he feels. What does it matter? What's the downside? I guess what does it hurt at this point in time? I don't think it does. If anybody does need some time off to clear their head, it would be Harry Maguire. The other story that came out is from Duncan Castles at the Times, and I would ignore it if it were, again, something like the Mirror, not Mullock, but the Mirror or the Sun or somebody like that. But Duncan Castles has been and remains and always will be essentially the mouthpiece in England for Jorge Mendes, Cristiano Ronaldo's agent. He's been very close to Portuguese players, to Jose Mourinho, to pretty much anybody represented by the Gestafood agency in England for some time. And he wrote the report that Cristiano Ronaldo was still unhappy about, this came out after the Europa League game, was still unhappy about how Erik ten Hag was managing the team, that he was stuck to old principles that worked at Ajax and not flexible and all of that. And a couple things about this. Number one is that some of this potential criticism, whether it's true or not, again, I don't want to even stir it up. Like I said, it just took the Maguire story and said I think it's mostly BS. With the Castle story, there's good reason to believe Duncan Castles, but I'm not going to say anything except, you can make your own mind up about the situation there. I have said for a long time that Cristiano Ronaldo does want to leave Manchester United. He still wants to leave Manchester United. They still want him out of Manchester United. I said that I think he has been treated unfairly by the club, not by Ten Hag. Ten Hag is the manager; he gets to pick the team, but treated unfairly by the club when it comes to Joel Glazer, not making it easier, blocking the sale or blocking even the termination of his contract, which would have been acceptable to me. I think it's probably got a lot of truth to it. It's not 100% wrong. Obviously, there's been Erik ten Hag's system. We talked about this in the last video quite a bit, and over the last week or so, he hasn't really put his system in place. It hasn't really been there. It hasn't really been working. It hasn't really been happening. He hasn't really got a system in place, and so there's truth in the criticism of that. United aren't very good, haven't been very good recently. But that's not really down to inflexibility. In fact, it's probably down to being too flexible and too pragmatic. Playing on the break, dropping deep in defense because his system didn't seem implementable with the players he had available, including Cristiano Ronaldo. So it's a bit of a silly story in that respect, as trying to paint Ten Hag as incompetent and play off the loss to City where Ronaldo didn't play and all of that. And that's a favorite pastime of Duncan Castle. So regardless of whether there's any truth in the story, it's surely Duncan Castle's looking to make noise against yet another Manchester United manager that isn't Jose Mourinho. So something to kind of ignore, something to look at and say, whatever. That being said, it's best for all parties, as we've talked about. I'm sure everybody agrees at this point, if Ronaldo does depart in January. However, the problem now becomes, who did they bring in if he departs in January? One name that was looking viable is Cody Gakpo. Story from Simon Mullock this morning, who is extremely close with Erik Ten Hag's agency, which happens to also be the agency that represents Cody Gakpo, says that he has a personal terms agreement with Leeds for January, who are looking for a 30 million purchase, that United ran out of the money for him. And here's the problem, as I've said. Would he join United over Leeds? Absolutely. However, United don't have any money. That is totally true. United do not have any money. I've made this very, very clear. They didn't have the money for Antony. They stretched for it. They took it out of future budgets, future money, if the current ownership remains. They don't have any money. So a purchase in January is a little trickier because it's going to be reliant on Cristiano Ronaldo finding a new home, somewhere else to go, and raising a little bit of money, or saving the wage savings on him from that in January, or getting a sale of perhaps someone like Donny van de Beek. But it means that United are thus contingent on making a purchase of a departure, and they're not convinced of or decided to be making a purchase in January at all, whereas a club like Leeds United may be looking and saying, we'll just get a striker. We could just do it January 1st. We could get the deal done, and they might be able to. So it's another option potentially removed for Manchester United when it comes to the striker situation. And in January, and probably the most viable January transfer that's there is looking unlikely. So it's continuing to be that I would expect no changes to the team in January, and until new ownership comes in. It's going to be a little rocky next summer. We talked about the potential names and teams and stuff that are out there. I will have some transfer news this next week as well. Regarding some of the players on expiring contracts, what might happen with them, as well as potential targets. So I will pass that along once I gather a bit more of it during the week, so it's of some substance. Moving on from that to the Everton game. I think the Everton game could be the most important game in a while, simply because we bounced back, had the 4 games, won in Europa League 2 in a row. It's not so desperate on the points, even though, yes, of course, we need to start grabbing them. But where it is desperate is needing to implement Ten Hag's style. And now is a chance to really implement his style in the Premier League with everybody we need healthy outside of Rafael Varane. But everybody we need healthy to do what he wants. Casemiro is vital to this. As I said in the last game, Casemiro, even if you think he didn't have the best game, I think it went a bit under the radar. But where it went under the radar is his involvement, which is extremely necessary for Erik Ten Hag's system. You need a defensive midfielder who's going to be involved. Someone pointed this out to me. Casemiro made more passes against Ammonia FC than Scott McTominay has ever attempted in a game at Manchester United, ever. And I believe that stat to be true. So, point being, he had 100 touches, 89 passes or something like that attempted. You need your deep midfielder in this Ten Hag system to be extremely involved. You cannot do it with Scott McTominay, even if he's been good as a disciplined deep defender. You can't. You need it, and of course, Tony Martial being back. So I think this is the game to really show their strengths. And the team, as I understand it, would be Antony, Tony, Rashford up front. That is confirmed as the front 3. That's out there, and it's true. That is the front 3. In the midfield, Casemiro will be starting. In the back line, Varane is not ready yet. You're going to see still Lisandro Martinez, Lindelof, Dalot, De Gea. That leaves the 3 spots. Luke Shaw or Tyrell Malaysia. As I said earlier in the week, I expected that Luke Shaw would be at least starting by the weekend. I think the midweek game showed that to be even more necessary. So I do expect him to start. I would be surprised if he doesn't. And then in the midfield, you could see the same run of Bruno and Eriksen. Again, similar to this team that ended the last game. Personally, I'd like to see Fred in there for Bruno at the moment, but I don't know on that. I don't think anybody does. It's not been out there, but I would like to see Fred in for Bruno. But you could definitely still see Bruno and Eriksen high eights with Casemiro, that deep midfielder, and all of that. So it's going to be a lot more Ten Hag ball. And that's what we need to see today. Ten Hag ball. The results will come. If we win or draw 4-4, I'd be happy. I want to see Ten Hag ball. I want to see chances created. I want to see a lot. I don't think we'll concede that many chances, but I want to see real dominating possession, controlling the play, and creating chances. And I think this is the best opportunity to do that. And to really start to implement that style over this game, the next one versus, once again, Ammonia, and the following weekend. So that's my hope for the game. That's my hope for what happens. That's the team. The team has the capability of doing that. The key players being Tony in the middle, Casemiro deep, and having the different profiles of Rashford and Antony, who provide completely different threats on either side. But I think that Shaw is going to be huge to play and to provide that extra progression and ball domination for United. So looking forward to the game. When I say I expect it to be a good one, sometimes that's not really how it turns out. But I do expect that if this is the team, we get to see a bit of Ten Hag style, and it's certainly not going to be settled in deep on the break. I don't see how that happens now. So leave me your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications on. I'll see you later.